Today we're gonna make pot roast, one of the best cold weather meals. Here are all those ingredients. Let's get into it right now. The way we're going to do it today is similar to the way we made our beef bourguignon. So the recipe calls for a 4-pound chuck roast. Sometimes you won't be able to find a 4-pound chuck roast. The stores will only have like a 3.5. That's not gonna make too much of a difference here. I just made 3 ties. 1, 2, 3, and then I tied here. Like that. And all that's doing is it's going to keep it together like a football. Because if you don't do that, it kind of will want to spread out and it might be a little hard to fit in your pot. Not a big deal. You could even cut it into 2 pieces if you wanted to. This is my homemade beef stock. I make stocks a lot for myself and family cooking, but I don't always show them on the channel. It's because a lot of you are not going to go ahead and make the stock. So all the stock that we made recently, see, and I like to put it in these containers. So chicken stock, 1 quart, 9, 15, 23. Okay, these are 2-quart containers, but I like to just put 1 quart in there, or a little bit less. So I got there. I have about, I don't know, a lot. A ton of stock we made here, which is great for all recipes for fall and winter. The best thing you can do if you're not gonna make your own homemade stock is to use this Better Than Bouillon beef base, which is vastly superior to box stock. Homemade beef stock, I don't put any salt in. Same thing with my chicken stock. That's the nice thing about it, because as things concentrate, you won't have overly salty food. We're gonna need 2 cups of this for the recipe. We're also gonna do 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire in there. We're gonna have a bundle of thyme. That's about 10 sprigs that I tied up. 2 large bay leaves, so I took 3 small ones because I'm running low on bay leaves right now. 3 tablespoons of flour. That's gonna thicken this up a good amount. If you wanted to make this, like say, a gluten-free recipe, you can just eliminate that. I have 1.5 cups of dry red wine. This is going to give it tremendous flavor. I have 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, 8 cloves of garlic that I just cut in half roughly. And then let's talk about 2 large yellow onions that I wanted to keep into fairly large pieces like this. All of my carrots, potatoes, and onions I want to be similar size. I have 1.5 pounds of these little potatoes that are great. I don't even need to cut them or do anything with it, so that's nice. If you want to use more than that, if you want to use like 2 pounds, 2.5, feel free to do it. Or if say you just want to use all potatoes or all carrots, that's fine too. But I have 2 pounds of carrots here. So, and these are cut into big chunks. For the really large end of the carrot, I cut it in half like that. The top of the carrot, I just left it. So I want about 2 to 3 inch size pieces of that too. First thing we're gonna do is sear up our chuck roast right now. Listen, I wanna go over the most important thing about doing this recipe, and this is not just for this pot roast, this is for other recipes where you're going to sear beef. Sear your beef in another pan. That's what we're going to do. This is a 12-inch stainless steel. The reason I'm using a 12 and not a 14 is because I know many of you are not gonna have a 14. If you do have a 14, it's better. You'll get a flatter surface, and this is a very large chuck roast. It's gonna have a hard time fitting in there. I'm gonna heat this pan up to just medium. That's it. You could even be lower than medium. Let's let it heat up for 3 minutes. That'll ensure no sticking. All right, so while our pan's heating up, and you wanna do this kind of like the last minute before, we're gonna season this up. I have paper towels. I want you to dry off this chuck roast as best you can. If you have a lot of moisture on this, you're gonna have a hard time searing it. All of the moisture is gonna have to evaporate first before it can start to brown. All right, so salt and pepper. For a size roast about this size, I recommend 2.5 to 3 teaspoons of salt, okay? So a good pinch on each side. Just kind of press that in there. Pepper too, about a 1/2 teaspoon. Set your oven to 325 degrees and make enough room to accommodate that Dutch oven, the top with the lid on it. Okay, our pan is hot. Let's check if it's hot. I'm just taking a touch of water, and you're gonna see these little balls come out. If it incinerates immediately, it's a little too hot. I have avocado oil, but you can use vegetable oil also. Just a little bit. Okay, you can take a couple paper towels and just distribute it completely. It is smoking a little bit, but it's going to be all right. Right there. So we want to cook this for about 2, 3, maybe 4 minutes per side. The more color you get on it, the more flavor you're going to build. Then about 3 minutes total. Let's just flip this over. Okay, see, like our pan is perfect. And look at that beautiful crust we have there without using super high heat. All right, so there's 3 minutes on that side. Let's take a look at it. Okay, perfect, right? So now, like, see this whole side here? So go like that. Okay, and it might fall over. So you just take your tongs and you just hold it. I'm just finishing the top here, like the top and the bottom. So this is going to smoke up here. It's probably going to set off your smoke alarm. I like to use a flat edge spoon like this. Makes it really easy to scrape the bottom of the pan to remove all of the brown bits. That's all you got to do. Just boil it out for 20-30 seconds to remove all the brown bits, then turn it off. Now, right before pouring it into our other stock, taste it to make sure that it's fine and not burnt. This obviously wasn't burnt because the pan wasn't black. Listen, I just lost the audio here talking to you guys, so I voiced it over, but you saw what I was doing on this camera. Right now, we're just gonna heat this up to a 4 out of 10. We're gonna put in about 3 tablespoons to a 1/4 cup of olive oil on the bottom of the pot. You can also use extra virgin if you want. I just have regular olive oil here. We're just going to add our onions in for now. Just gonna like kind of get the onions started a little bit. I'm just doing a little pinch of salt. You know, that stock I'm working with, that being homemade, there's no salt in it, so it definitely gives me some flexibility to like salt my onions here, to maybe salt my beef. All right, we'll let these go for about 7 to 10 minutes. Here is our garlic. So that was 8 cloves of garlic that was just cut in half or cut in thirds, depending on how large size of your cloves are. And let them cook in here for about 2 minutes with the onions. Let them get a little fragrant. Okay, so it's another couple minutes for the garlic. Garlic's not really getting any color on it, but it's fine. You smell it good now. It's 3 tablespoons of paste. I think I only have 2 here. Just gonna have to do. Start to burn a little bit here. You're getting a little too brown on the bottom. Just stick a tiny bit of water in there. That's what I'm gonna do. Just about that much, okay? It'll evaporate fairly quickly. Just fry this paste out for about 3 minutes. Normally it's not that much liquid. I'm putting a little bit more liquid because I want a nice sauce for it. But pot roast is just a roast in a pot. But we're gonna add this flour in here, and that's 3 tablespoons of flour. So all I'm doing here is just cooking this until all the white is gone, and it's gone. It only takes about 30 seconds. And then this is 1.5 cups of dry red wine. I believe that's Chianti, but it doesn't really matter. You can use Cabernet, you can use Pinot Noir. Now we're gonna do 2 cups of the beef stock and those extra pan drippings that we saved. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and then 10 sprigs of fresh thyme that I just tied, see? So it'll be easier to fish them out later on. 3 little bay leaves. When it comes to a boil, you don't even need to bring it to a boil, but we just want to make sure with our spoon again that we dislodge any brown bits at the bottom. You're not gonna have much because we seared the beef in the other pan. It's bubbling a little bit, that's good enough. Turn it off, all right? Gonna add our roast back in. You can add all the juices, all the leftover juices. With the amount of flour we used, we do need about this much liquid. Cover this up, tight fitting lid. That's why we're using a Dutch oven. It's the kind of the tool of choice for all of these oven braises. So again, middle of the oven, 1.5 hours, 325 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been about 90 minutes. You just put this in right now, and you'll notice it'll be very hard. You won't be able to pierce it at all. See how much resistance is coming in there? We're at about 165 now. It's gonna thicken up a little bit more because we put the flour in. So all I'm gonna do is just plop my potatoes in and my carrots. I'm gonna do about half and half on each side to make it look nice. I did a little bit more carrots than potatoes. We did 1.5 pounds of potatoes and 2 pounds of carrots. Salt and pepper, you could put a little bit on your vegetables, but I just like to do it at the end when I put it in a platter. It's easier that way. We're gonna put this in for another 2 hours. It could take up to another 2.5 hours, so it could take up to 4 hours total. We don't really need to worry about the time, but this is just a good general estimate. We want this to be 200 to 210 degrees. It'll be tender at that point. It'll be pretty much to the point where you can shred it. So we could do a couple preliminary checks to make sure everything is okay. A knife works really well just to go in. Right in the middle there, it's a little tough. Outside is very soft. Let's take a temperature reading. Yeah, we're there, 207. We're there, okay? Now sometimes it'll just be maybe a little bit tough in there, but nothing a little bit of the gravy won't handle. And I'll just take a couple forks here and just see. Okay, so that is very tender now. We're gonna pull this meat out, we're gonna pull our vegetables out, and then we can decide what we wanna do with the gravy. Do we want to thicken it? We can degrease it. This is a 4-pound chuck roast. There's a ton of interior fat. A lot of that is liquefied. Before you say fat is flavor, you still might want to try to mitigate it just a bit, and that's what we'll do. Now, normally with a chuck roast anyway, you're going to want to shred it up. First thing you can do now is just cut away the string. If you shred it up, you can cut it apart, and there'll always be a huge amount of fat right down here. So you can remove some of those pieces of fat, then you can shred it so you don't get so much fat in there for people. And then let's get all of the vegetables out as well. I want to leave most of my onions in the sauce because that's going to help thicken it too if we puree it. You can leave a few of these potatoes in here and just thicken them, and that's what I'm going to do too. I'm going to mash some of them, and I'll leave a few carrots also. All right, we're going to just tent this up so it stays hot. So we want to remove some of the fat from this. You can see how much fat is up here. It's a ton. Now, this trick I'm doing is just from Jacques Pepin. He does this. You just do this. Now, all of this is fat here. You could also put ice cubes in a ladle. You could do a few other tricks. Normally, just a few of these will remove a good amount. So now this is good. I left a few potatoes in there. I left some carrots in there. I have this, which is great. This is a portable immersion blender, which I don't know where this has been all my life. I've been using a plug-in one forever. Check out my store. I'm hawking it. Affiliate links down below, all right? Seriously though, if you don't want to buy it from my store, just buy one for yourself. So what I'm doing is I'm going to puree this with the potatoes and all those onions, and this might thicken it up enough where we don't have to add flour. Probably have about 2.5 cups of sauce here. So I'm gonna thicken this up with a slurry. So I'm gonna use about 2 tablespoons of flour, a couple ounces of water. Basically, I want it to like coat the bottom of this a little bit more than that. I have 2 tablespoons of flour that I just mixed in water. Let's put in a little bit of it to start. And the reason we do a slurry, if I put the flour straight in there, it would clump. At this time now, we can also season up our gravy to make it absolutely perfect. I'm thinking just a touch of salt. All right, nice and hot. And again, salt and pepper on the carrots. Do a little bit of that sauce. You could also add all your vegetables back into the pot and glaze them up if you want. We will shred it up and have Tara taste test it right now. Okay, Tara's here. By the way, parsley garnish if you want. But I just put a little thyme garnish. Not the nicest looking thyme, but hopefully you have a good time eating it.
That was a bad joke.
And do your guests a favor, rip this whole thing apart, remove all the fat.
It's so good that I don't want to stop eating it. It is definitely loaded with like a strong beef flavor. The carrots and the potatoes, I mean, they're carrots and potatoes, but when they're cooked like this, they become something a little bit more special.
And when they're glazed up with the sauce too, yeah. How does the beef taste itself? It's tender, everything?
Delicious.
A lot has to function of the quality of the roast you get. Sometimes we've had situations where they weren't so good.
So I think I just got like a piece of an onion with that.
Yeah, the onions are very mushy, which is what I want. You know?
Okay.
I love a lot of onion in it. A different dish, but similar, is pasta alla genovese. So that it has a ton of onions, like 5 pounds of onions, and you cook a whole chuck roast on top of it. And in Italy, they typically serve the meat separate. This has really a lot of similar flavors to it, but this is an American pot roast here.
Can I give it a 10?
Yes, you definitely can.
It is so good. Like I said, I don't want to stop eating it. I'm trying to think of different ways to serve it. You could almost turn this into like a sandwich.
Yeah.
On, like if you shred all the pot roast and you were to put it on garlic bread or...
Oh yeah, there's so many things you can do with it.
I think that would be great. I don't think I really had pot roast growing up. I think the first time I had pot roast was when my dad's wife, my stepmother, Angie, made it. And she did the carrots and potatoes, but she also served it with like a wilted red cabbage.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
And that was really good too.
That's like German style.
Yeah. So I think that would be also something that you could consider adding in. I'm sorry, it's a 10.
Thank you. Hey, appreciate it. And listen, it doesn't have to be as complicated as I made it. Finishing that sauce at the end, you could just serve it without doing it. All right? We really hope you make it. We'll see you next time.